SketchUp scenes for the Paulk Total Station 2 model are put together and ready to go. Hi, I'm Ron Paulk. Welcome to the Digital Smart Woodshop. Okay, so I have the model together. I have created the copies and exploded and done all the things I needed to do, at least to this point. And now I have taken the time to create the scenes. These are the windows that layout will look into and that I will put notes on to show you how to build it. Now, to start with, I have my cover sheet. And this basically, I've talked about this before, but this is a complete model as I would build it. And I've added the tools and materials so that a person seeing it for the first time will understand what it is. Backside of it, and so this shows with the new sawhorses, the rail storage, the vacuum, at least this size vacuum fits underneath in between the trim and the track, and which is important for me because I run the hose up through a hole I created in the middle here, and that hooks onto the vacuum, and the plug goes down through there and plugs in, so I don't have a hose and a cord going across the bench to interfere with the flow of my workbench. Exact same model, and turn off the tool layer, and then I change the camera perspective. So if I go here and I go to perspective, you can see that that's sort of the 3D look there, and I can move this around so you can see that it is the model. But if I click back on front, then it gives me this nice drawing that then I can go in and make notes on. And then basically once I set this up with the settings, I was able to go and do the left side left. It's not named right. I've noticed a naming problem there. So this is side right, which I will rename. The back and the top. And then I go into the second model. So basically I took this model, I made a copy of it, and then I exploded it. So I had it all done, all completed, ready to go, and then I exploded it, and that created the second model. And so then we go there, and so we're looking down at the top, exploded view, and then the front, the left, the right. See, I'll be able to go in, and even though this is a portal showing the right side, when I create the portal, I can actually come in and show just a portion of the portal and have multiple. So I could show, say, this portion right here and have dimensions and notes and explaining what's going on. And then I could come in and make another portal and have, a section just show, or detail just showing down here. Whatever I end up with, when I get into layout, I will just be looking through it and deciding on what do I need to show you so you'll know how to build it. And then I click on the back view, same thing, it's the same model. If I click and rotate here, you can see that. And I can do this also. So I could bring this portal, I could bring this in to layout and show it, make details, and then I can make a copy of it. And in that copy, then I could come in and just rotate it and make whatever view I want. And in this case, I would probably come in, and even after the fact, I can change the camera to perspective, which makes more sense when you're looking at 3D. And I can move it around and find a section that will help explain some detail. So I can show these T-nuts and the hex head bolts and the depth of the cut, and then the knob that hooks onto there. So that creates my complete stop, 2 of those. So I can show that. So I can actually, without making another scene, I can make a portal and then adjust it inside of layout. So I'm not modeling, but I'm just changing the view of the model. So, but if I click back on exploded back, then, and when I bring the model, this is one model, even though I've got copies of it, it's one plan, one model. And when I go in to layout, I don't have it open as I'd show you, but when I put a copy of the model in, there will be a list of all of these scenes, and I could click on any one of these scenes. So I'm bringing in just one copy of the model and just clicking on the different scenes. And so then I go into the parts layout, which is the third copy. This is the same model, the exploded model. I made a copy of it, and then I took it all apart and laid it out on 18 millimeter. You can see the plywood here, 3 12 millimeter, 2 18 millimeter, and this purple one is not plywood. That is just a backdrop for all of the hardware. And these are the 2 screws I use, but there's a number of each, and I'll list that. But this gives you a visual shopping list. You could look at this without even having it written and figure out what you need. But of course, I will also, on the same page and layout, provide a written list, as well as there'll be a page of links. So I'll try to find the proper hinges on Amazon and put a link. I'll find the bolts and knobs and such. The tracks, I've already got a source for that, so I'll put a link in, and the strap and the buckles, etc. So I have links for all of that, as well as shopping lists, so you can go locally and find them. And then I have the parts detail. So this is all the separate pieces of 12 millimeter. And so you can see it's parts detail 12 millimeter. And I will go in, and this is where I will do dimensioning in millimeter and in standard. And I will show the spacing of the holes, the size of the holes, all of this kind of stuff. And I'll label each one of these, and I'll create a key, and that key will have the label with a number. So I'll have a label or a key with the numbers, and so this probably be number 1 and then number 2, and so whenever you go anywhere in the plans, you can refer to that key, and if I've got number 1, you know that you're looking at the bottom of it. But I'll be able to detail all of the 12 millimeter on one page, and then I've got the 18 millimeter on another page. And I cheated a little bit here. I have some solid wood. These are the splines for the stops. These will be hardwood, but I didn't want to do a separate page, so I'll make a note on that. And you also notice that, for example, the spreaders, there are 4 of these, and I only show 1 because there's no need to do it 4 times. On the parts layout, I show all 4, because here, I'm not telling you where to cut the plywood. I'm just showing you how I came up with 3, and you can see there's quite a bit left over. So, and this again is just showing the hardwood, so that's not even taking up that section. But you know, I sort of played Tetris here with this, and I spent a bit of time just moving things around to get the most efficient use of the plywood. And I even spaced everything a blade width apart so that we can account for that. And again, I don't quite cut it out this way when I'm making the videos, you'll see, because I'm wanting to sort of show the whole process for each piece. So rather than pre-cutting everything, I start with the big pieces, I manufacture them, then I cut the next size down. And so I don't probably take it out of it just like this, but I end up with these cutouts here, this cutout and these cutouts, this cutout, and those are full pieces. I route them out, so minus the cut of the blade, and then I'll have those pieces all stacked up. And then things like this, I'll just grab a piece of cutout and go, oh, I can make these, or I can make one from one and one from another. So I don't plan it that well, but this just shows you how I come up with my materials list and what it's going to take. And so again, back to the 12, the 18. And then I went ahead and did a few that I could have done after the fact, some details that I thought were important. Again, like this is the stop, pretty easy to make, but it's the best stop I've ever found on the market. And I've bought some of the expensive aluminum ones. And this one was a design I came up with because of the shortcomings of all the others that I have found on the market. So I would change the angle of it, and I could show, 3 or 4 different shots in layout and make it really clear, dimensioning the holes and the dado and how the nuts go on and all that kind of stuff. But I only need the 1 page to start with. And then I went ahead and did the router fence detail. This is probably going to be the last time I include this. This is just one of those generic things that I've included for people. But there are a lot of designs, and I think this is the last time I'm going to bother with it. So if I have any future workbench plans or updates, this will be gone. So I just left it in this time. but I'm tired of spending all the time on it when, again, I'm not even really charging for it. I'm just providing it. But if I do a route, what I may do and I'm saying may because I don't even know if I want to take on another design. They take so much time. But I think I designed something a little more sophisticated and just have a separate plan. But I do have it in there, and so I'll be able to show the details on that. And again, once I bring it in, I can show the different looks just by flipping it around, and then I can show, the little the dust notch, and the vacuum port, and all of that kind of stuff. So I've got that, and I went ahead and did this one separately, even though I didn't really need to. I could have picked it out of another one, but I went ahead and picked it out here and made a scene, and then the same thing with the extension. I want to be able to really show how these extensions go together, all the parts and pieces. So that is where I am at, and I'm pretty excited about this. It is a tight model. As you know, I built it from the original plan, or from the other plans that I had done, and just realized there were so many changes and so many adjustments that it just wasn't worth repairing those. So I started from scratch and got the model perfect. And then from there, I started picking it apart and making copies and things like that. So I'm pretty excited. I think this is going to be my best plan set ever. This is my favorite bench of all my benches. I'm not saying that it does everything. I still like a single bench. I really like the compact bench, the PCB. I'm not so much into my big bench, the Paulk workbench. That's a great bench as well for 4x8, but with portability and having this bench and the other bench match, I like those two together. Really portable, fit in any van, any pickup truck, any trailer, and have a full-on shop. If I take the other bench and this one, I am just set to go. I like the reason I call this a total station is this is kind of my wood shop. I've got my ripping over here. I can data with this as well. I've got a second saw that I'll put on this end, and I do that a lot with the data blade on it. So I've got two table saws, and I don't have to move the one over here out of the way. It works. I can still use the router, still use the router table, and still use the bench area. My bench, unfortunately, I built it with this moved over. That's one of the changes. The router drop-in is over a little bit, and it's fine with this fence, but I've gotten this really nice woodpecker super fence. It's much longer, and so when I took it and put it in over here, it runs over into the space, and then if I want to rotate the saw, I have to move it. So this design I set up so that I could use that super fence and not interfere in this space here. This is a little deceiving. This saw I downloaded off of the library, and in the real world, this back of this saw is, it doesn't move. This is a fixed point. The head of the saw moves, which is one of the really cool things about Capex and a few other saws in the market, is they don't take up space behind because the head moves in space here. So this is it just rotates. Well, this spot here where the cord wraps on is about 12 millimeters off this space right here. So the saw actually sticks a lot further. But this is just a model to show you it in place. I did make sure the height was right because I wanted to match that and the depth of this. So this is all pretty accurate. Or very accurate, at least in looks. And for those that want to know, will something other than the Capex work? Absolutely, lots of people. And we put pictures up on our Pinterest board showing other people using just about every saw I know of. The Rigid, the Makita, the DeWalt, the Bosch. They've all been used. I created a pretty big space in here. I'm pretty sure this is wide enough for any brand saw. And then the fixed portion of the miter bench that stays permanently attached then can just be adjusted in length. So if you've got a saw a little bit wider, then you just make this a little bit shorter. And then height-wise, I've done the same thing. I've got these supports that are just made from 12 millimeter, and I've got them not glued on, but rather just screwed on. And And then this new addition, the subtop, I've done that so that I've created a box, great storage for transportation. But that box, essentially, the height of it, if a different miter saw is a different height from here, actually to the bottom of the base, you'd mount this base on any miter saw. So the distance from there to there may vary a slight amount. Most saws are pretty close, but pretty easy. All you got to do is change the height of these two supports, and that's it. Oh, and then obviously the front of this, which is cut out for where this base has that little dado, which that's what sort of positions it to right where you want it. It drops right in. That would make a difference on this horizontal cut right here. So you would adjust these and adjust that horizontal cut on this side. And that's pretty much it for making it work with any miter saw, at least that I've seen. I'm not going to do the detailing because I don't have those saws, and I don't plan on buying them to make one up. And the table saw, now that I no longer hang the saw off, because I've gone to these bigger saws and I want it off to the right, and coming up with a hanging system just isn't super practical. Plus, they're just too heavy for me to haul around. I like them on their wheeled gravity lift bases, which are included with the saw. So, and then I use it on the other end as well. So I don't have the outfeed, these cutouts that line up with these, but these are even wider and centered, so that every table saw I measured on these center to centers, these two worked with. So no adjustment there. Any table saw would work. So that's, boy, I love these new sawhorses. They're fantastic. I'm going to see about updating fast cap with these so that in the future the Paulk bench at fast cap will come with these two-sided horses. All right, so there we are. So next up is to go into layout and to start from the front page, working my way all through, getting all the details done. We're still talking 40 to 60 hours of real on work, and I don't have enough time to just spend 8 hours a day doing. I've got other projects. So even though this is primary and I'm making it the number one thing I'm doing, it's still tough to get a solid 8 hours in every day. So a lot of time left to do it, but I want to get it right, and I'm going to make them a fantastic value. And then, one other thing, that this is an add-on that I actually did to my bench afterwards. Instead of doing the slots, which anybody could add if you want to do a bolt with a nut, like a knob on this, and have this slide back and forth, you can just cut a slot and a hole in the slot and drop those in. I may even do that in the future and show a little video in the shop doing it. But I've mostly just been clamping, using clamps through these holes, and I can just loosen one clamp and rotate it a little bit for spacing, because as you know, you don't have to have the fence parallel, because it's a circular blade, so wherever it is parallel. You just want the spacing right. So I'm able to get it exactly the way I want with these. Works really well. But what I ran into with the spacing of 96, mine's of course further back. I was back, I think, on these, and I needed it farther forward, and these I couldn't reach from these, and these were underneath it. So I decided on mine, I've added these two right here, because my drop-in is a full 96 millimeters behind. But this is improved and moved forward, and I added these, and these I did at 32 millimeters apart, so we'd stay with our 32 millimeter system. It would have been easier just to do one in the middle, and that would have been 48, but that doesn't work with any of the 32 millimeter systems, so I did two instead. So you can drop these in and have a lot of adjustability with any fence. So there it is. I will move over to layout next, and when I get a little bit done there, I will drop in and make you another video, and hopefully get this done, and then get it up, and then start editing the videos and show you the lot of fun videos of building this in the shop. You'll get to see all of that. Videos are sitting there waiting for me to edit and get ready, all that shop time, but Got to finish the plans first. Thanks for dropping in to the Digital Woodshop. Have a great day.